You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
Maxime, missed you last week. You traveling internationally, no less, man. How you been? Do you feel up to speed? There's been a bunch of free agency in the last few days. Are you jet lagged? Are you fired up? How does this episode find you?
Hella jet lagged. I landed in the time zone at 8 a.m. on Monday morning, which happened to be 5 p.m. Sunday night. So I quote unquote watched game 7 for the first hour of my workday on Monday. It was a very, very strange sensation, especially with Tyrese going down so early. Just super bizarre experience. But overall, yeah, totally caught up on free agency because nothing has happened. So it's really easy to keep track of.
Are you one of those people? So, I mean, they tell you, like, if there's going to be giant jet lag, if there's a huge time flip, you're supposed to just power through, like, don't go to sleep, just go through and keep it up. They always tell me that. I never fucking do it. I always just, like, go to sleep the second I'm there. Whatever the wrong move is, that's my move. And for you, do you, like, I see you actually following the jet lag rules. Like, do you try to power through?
100%. And I did that and it failed so spectacularly because I didn't sleep. So then I was just sleep deprived on top of being in the wrong time zone. I almost I couldn't eat for 3 days because my body was like fucked up and then I couldn't sleep either. It was a terrible experience.
Excellent. I don't know why that makes me happy, but it did make me a little happy to hear that. Let's talk free agency, man. Okay. So quick practical reality. We knew this before the offseason even started. We knew this before the Warriors season ended. The Warriors are not going to really participate, are not going to understand what they can add, how they can add it until after the JK situation has worked itself out. So chances are really there's not going to be any major free agency moves for the Warriors until, I don't know, at least another few weeks here. And actually the team's roster probably won't be settled until January, February, until after the trade deadline's gone. They've had a chance to see where they stand and then they make some moves. But does that prevent us from watching free agency and being jealous of everything going on around us? Fuck no, it hasn't. So for today's podcast, we're going to be looking at moves the Warriors have made. We're going to be looking at moves the Warriors are rumored to be considering making, and we're going to be looking at moves that the Warriors did not make. There have been some free agency signings, so I'm going to throw those out to you and see whether or not we would want to have made any of them. Let's jump into our glass half full and start exploring this shit. So, Maxime, glass half full. We look back at recent Warriors basketball, Warriors news, basketball news in general, and pull out something we like and we don't. Let's start with the one concrete thing we know has happened for the offseason in Warriors land, and it's that Kevon Looney is gone, Maxime. Mm-hmm. Loon has signed a 2-year, $16 million deal with the New Orleans Pelicans. He's going to be reunited with Jordan Poole out there. The end of an era, no less. Look at it. Tell me, what do you think, man? Glass half full, empty? Where does this move hit
you? The writing sort of felt like it was on the wall, but it doesn't make the impact any less hard to take. Obviously, Clay is the moment where you feel like the dynasty ended. But there is something about Looney's consistency. The fact that he didn't start out on the team as somebody, that was a touted member of the team and in fact had some early shoulder stuff. And it was really just Steve Kerr believing in him that kept him on the squad as long as it did, until he became such a rock solid component of what we're trying to do. I mean, it feels a little bit like, if I could say, another death knell to the dynasty, a second death knell, an inevitability, but really, really hard to think that we're going to watch the squad next year without Kevon Looney on it.
I can't fucking stand it. So look, is this something that probably needed to happen? Probably. I mean, I don't think it's breaking news to say that the Warriors needed to get younger. We've been saying that, more athletic. And when they lose Loon, they're losing a player who's older and not necessarily at the height of his athleticism. So like, I get why you would let him walk. But now that it's been announced, do I like it? No, not at all, man. It's a core piece. It's a guy who has meant everything to us, And so look, stuff on the floor. We know it. The 20 rebound games, 3 championships, all those times he accepted whatever the hell role we needed him to take. When they asked Kevon Looney to do something, he did it immediately. But it's not just his on the floor stuff. It's the off the floor stuff. But don't take my word for it. I pulled a quote from Steve Kerr, and he offered this after the Jordan Poole got punched scenario. And while everything was just in fucking chaos in Golden State, here's how Kerr described what Loon's impact was in the locker room.
Steve, how critical was, Kevon Looney in the decision-making process and the kind of leadership that you needed with Draymond not being in there?
Loon is incredible. This guy has so much wisdom. He's so quiet that if you don't pay attention, you may not realize that he has become the moral compass of our team. He's a special human being, special. And he was a key instrument in everything that we've had going the last week to try to, get things back on track. I'll ride with Loon forever. This is a special man.
Got it right there. Yeah. Well, it turns out he wasn't right there. I guess they're not going to ride with him forever. It is what it is. So look, let's put this in the context we were just talking about. Will ultimately the Warriors bring in somebody presumably younger, and try to reach that more athletic, younger roster? Probably. But when you lose people who are of, Loon's age, what do you lose? You lose things like moral compass. You lose things like special player. You lose things like someone you want to ride with forever. And so, it's a necessary sacrifice, and it's kind of the definition of glass half full. I get why they did it. If they had asked me, should we, I think I would have said yes, but does it hurt? Hell yeah. It sucks to say goodbye.
Yeah, I remember that quote distinctly. I remember when it came out, and I remember thinking, wow, Steve Kerr is awesome, and so is Looney. And then there was, there's another story about him being a champion for yoga in the locker room in general, and how much it helped him sort of manage being a big body that's getting slammed around the court all the time. So just obviously all of these little things add up to a person that probably behind the scenes has shaped Warriors culture in this dynastic run as much as Steph. And everybody talks about Steph's influence in terms of being a team first guy that everybody wants to play with, but obviously it takes a full locker room of people to not just follow along with that, but add their own flavor to it. And it's really, really clear that Looney's a huge part of that. So, you mentioned we got to send him out the door because we need to get younger. And yet a lot of the rumors that are coming in, which we'll get to in a little bit, are not necessarily trying to make us any younger. So I think we're in this moment right now where nothing has happened, so we have nothing to get excited about except for Looney leaving, which obviously doesn't make us excited. And in that vacuum, it makes it worse because the rumors that are swirling are great, so we might replace him with somebody that's even older than him, that admittedly has more all-star accolades, but it's a particularly vulnerable moment for me, and I think for this fan base at large, watching him go out the door.
We're watching all of our friends get new toys, and we're not getting shit. We're losing things. Houston signs KD. The Magic get Bane. Denver gets everybody. There's all of these things. All these people are getting new toys. And meanwhile, we're being told we can't spend for shit. And our old favorite chair has to be given away. We can't afford it anymore. And so we'll see where it goes. But am I happy to be watching it this way? Fuck no. Here's a random question. So I mentioned Jordan Poole is in New Orleans. He just got traded out there. Now Loon is going there as well. The last time at least they were on a same roster was at that practice when Poole got punched in the face. So if you're Jordan Poole, and there's no one in Washington who's been able to talk to him about this at all, and it's behind him, but at some point, do you bring up the fight to Loon? You're not having a deep conversation, but do you joke about it? Do you say anything, or do you just always pretend that, it never happened? You just move on.
I'm somewhere in between. They also have a Milwaukee connection, right? So it's probable that they've hung out in some context outside of the NBA. But regardless, for the purposes of this exercise, here's what I do. Like I said, it's somewhere in between. I'm not bringing it up because it's on my mind. This is maybe the seminal moment of my professional career, if not my life. And then on top of this, now I have somebody to talk with about it. But I also don't want to let on, because I've quote unquote moved on, right? And now I'm like a veteran voice on
Means
no
nothing.
longer the Wizards, right? But obviously I'm in a different stage of my career, and it would be childish for me to bring this up. So I'm doing it more in the context of like, oh, hey, did you see that fight last night? Like Jake Paul really punched that guy super hard. Like, wouldn't it be crazy to get punched like that? I mean, I don't know, right? Like, what do you think? That kind of energy, and just like hope that he brings it up, and then you can be then the bigger person in the room and just be like, oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I didn't really think about that connection, but you're totally right. Anyways, I don't feel the need to talk about it, but like, it's a good point that you brought that up. And then you at least know that he's thinking. That's the thing. I think, Bram, that's the thing that I really care about in the end here, is I want to know that Kevon Looney thought about it and cared and maybe felt a little bit bad for me. That's it. I don't want to talk about it, but I want to know that he cared.
I'd want to diffuse it. The best case, and so like we're all thinking about it. We know it's there. I couldn't, if you say nothing, it's just out there forever. It's always going to be there. And so you'd want some best case scenario, some passive aggressive joke that just deals with it and gets rid of it. Like if you're watching a fight together, someone gets hit in the face super hard, you drop oh, that reminds me of something, and then that's it. You don't say shit and you let it go. But chances are you look for that and then fuck it up and underline it in the wrong way. Somebody gets punched and you're like, oh, that guy also got sucker punched. Like something that shows that you've actually that like you really have one certain way of thinking this. You haven't moved on. And I could see him just shitting the bed on that over and over again. At least that's what I would do. Like 1,000%. Try to show someone I don't care. And in the process, just show like there's nothing I care about more. Like nothing at all. All right, to our next move. Yeah, this one's rumored. Nothing's happened, Maxime. In fact, we're not even the favorites to land them, but it certainly is entertaining to talk about. So Damian Lillard, big times in Lillard's backyard here. So he enters the offseason, 34 years old, coming off a year where he averaged about 25 points per game, almost 7 assists, 4.3 boards, and shot close to 40% from three. So like a solid ass year, but he tears his fucking Achilles. Now we know for sure he's going to be out for all of next year. We also know that the Bucks still owed him $113 million going into the offseason. No one knew how the hell Milwaukee was going to deal with this. Well, we do now. They've waived him. They are screwing over Damian Lillard. They're going to pay him a little bit more than $22 million a year for the next 4 years to not play basketball for them. They're going to give him more money than I will ever make in my life per season to make sure that he is not on the floor, which means Damian Lillard is a free agent, Maxime. He can join anyone he wants. He won't be playing next year, but he can still sign with a team. Here's the odds. Here's how Vegas sees it. They have the Miami Heat at the odds-on favorite at plus 200. So about 2-1. Portland at 3-1. Denver at 4-1. And then your Golden State Warriors at 6-1 to sign Damian Lillard. What do you think, man? If Dunleavy gave you a call, Maxime, not sure, hometown kid, we love him, but a little old. He's coming off an Achilles injury. Should we pursue him? What do you say?
Of course, it's all about the number, right? You sign him for a minimum or whatever, lock him up. Sure. I mean, I say sure, right? Like we don't have literal pennies to spare in terms of putting a roster together. So maybe it's not quite that simple, but I'm talking in abstraction here. It seems like it makes more sense generally if we're talking about a healthy Damian Lillard. Miami, it seems like he fills a position of need much more than he does on Golden State. He's much more redundant, obviously, with what Steph does. It would be a huge change. It would be a lot of stuff that we would need to figure out. We've been talking about how we need to get bigger. This would be a very much a getting smaller move. Again, talking about when he's back on the court and healthy. But also, by the way, just as you framed it as like he screwed him over, I can't see how this is not anything but the best news for Damian Lillard. It felt like he and Giannis were not quite figuring out on the court or maybe even off the court the way that everybody thought that it was going to go. And so now he gets an opportunity to go to a new team, try something different, and he gets to rehab it would be nice if a team was helping him through that process, but he has enough money that he can hire whoever he needs to help him get through it the way that he wants. He's obviously good enough that somebody is going to want him. Somebody's even willing to consider just taking on his contract for the whole year when he's not going to play for them. So it kind of feels like the best case scenario for him. He's still getting his payday. Sure, it stretched out over a few more years, but maybe that's a better thing anyways. I think it's great news. If I'm Damian Lillard, I'm very, very excited about this.
You wouldn't be hurt. I mean, this is a part of your legacy now that, that's what everyone's talking about is Milwaukee it wants to pay you $250,000 to not play for them. They're like, no, fuck you. I mean, I get what you're saying. You now get to pick your location. You're going to get additional money. And presumably if you're successful, you can rehab the image. If he goes on and has some kind of incredible couple of years, it's Milwaukee that we'll be laughing at. But if this happened to you, would you literally be able to see it as all upside? You wouldn't be a little pissy about it?
I mean, I'm sure it would hurt me for a couple of days, right? Just like I'm sure that if I was a starter for an NBA team and then I got moved to the bench, it would take me a second. But like Andre Iguodala did it, right? There are ways that you come to understand these things, and I think it's actually a kind of a win-win for both sides, right? I think even if Dame comes back and has an excellent final last couple of years to his career, I don't know that I'm really going to be laughing at Milwaukee because this tied them up so dramatically. If his contract wasn't waived and stretched out over 5 years, I mean, they were hamstrung, and then it was starting to be like, well, maybe Giannis needs to look somewhere else. And now they actually have enough movement that they might be able to put together a contending team. I'm not necessarily saying a championship team, but a team that could convince Giannis, oh, okay, there's something happening in Milwaukee enough that I can stick around. So it really does feel like a win-win. And I think Dame seems like the type of person that has had enough and would be like, oh, okay, it's, I get it. Right. After a little hurt. I hear you.
I would be subjectively unquestioned hurt. Let's say I have someone in my life, a little brother, I don't know, somebody who I see all the time. And on Monday, when I see them, I'm still under contract for the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm scheduled to get $113 million. I'm Dame fucking Lillard. On Wednesday, when I see him, I've been waived, that's what everyone is talking about. When I saw him, would I feel a little embarrassed and weird about it? Yeah, I would. They're all talking about how I've been cut. Do I have a chance to reframe it? Of course. Fast forward a couple of years, maybe me and that kid are now talking about this is the best thing that's ever happened. But is there a portion that makes me feel vulnerable about this? Hell yeah. But from a Golden State Warriors perspective, not a Damian Lillard's perspective, if we're talking about a contract that pays him $10, $12 million, a DeAnthony Melton contract. Would I be excited to do that? Yes, I would. Home run swing. It's the kind of thing that might inadvertently put us back onto contender status. I don't think it will. He's 34 years old. He's a little redundant. He's not great defensively, and he's coming off a major fucking injury. But we need shooters. He can shoot. We need toughness. He's tough. He's from the Bay. We've got all of these connections with him. And so if we're not talking a whole lot of money, would I do it? Absolutely. If he wants, 20 million, if he wants to really underline that he's still incredibly valuable, do I think they should pay that? No, I don't. And so I guess we'll see. We'll see what the money looks like and how they'd want to approach it. But the idea of having him in a Golden State Warriors jersey, is that sexy to me? Sure. I like it. It sounds fun.
For no other reason that he's from the Bay, it would be cool to see a Golden State jersey on.
No, that's exactly right. Back, yeah. Well, and friend of the podcast, I had a very embarrassing back and forth with Damian Lillard at Chase Center. I know I've told this story before. Quick version now. It was a shoot around, which are different than practices. They actually happened out on the floor at Chase. And so they were talking to Damian. I think he was sitting where the Warriors bench normally is. And it was pretty early on in their move over to Chase Center. And so what they were talking about is the difference of crowds. Hey, noticing the difference between what it used to be in Oakland and really underlining it with Lillard because he's from the town. And they go through it back and forth. And at the end of the shoot around, people are now walking off the floor. I approached him. This wasn't on record, and basically said something along the lines of, look, it is different. I'm born and raised in Oakland. I went to school at Skyline and spent my whole life going to Warriors games. Yeah, it's definitely different. And he gave me a overtly positive response. Yeah. And it's always good to see somebody from the town, something like that, kind of encouraging me. But instead of just taking my fucking win and going home, I then basically stalked him. I followed him across the floor, tried to force what was a 10-second interaction into a 5-minute conversation. And after the 11th second, Dame was like, you need to stop following me. I mean, he didn't say that, but it was very clear he did not need me continuing this conversation for as long as I did. So anyways, if he comes back, we're best friends now. And I'm really looking forward to having him back at Chase Center. Okay, to our last move. And this one is a rumor, but it seems like a pretty damn solid one. It's Al Horford to the Golden State Warriors, Maxime. So what the reporting has been is that Al is unquestionably leaving Boston. Makes sense. Boston's already shed a bunch of salary. That he was considering two major teams, that it was down to the Lakers and to the Warriors. And now that the Lakers have signed DeAndre Ayton, it is most likely that he's signing in Golden State, glass half full. If you had asked me of all the things I thought the Warriors might get during the offseason, more athletic, a higher salary structure, I mean, whatever it is, the thing I probably would not have said is older. The idea that that's what we're going to do, at least, I mean, there's other moves coming, but that we are getting ready to sign Al Horford despite him being, I think, 37. It's kind of a surprise, it's kind of a surprise. So let's see, glass half full, championship dude, definition of a 16-game player. And in fact, averaged way more points than I thought. Also, he is not 37. He's 39 years old. But despite being 39, averaged 27.6 minutes for Boston last year. I was surprised that the number was that high and was pretty productive. 9 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, shot about 36% from three. And that was on a team that had pretty high aspirations. So I like what he can add to a playoff run. Like I said, 16-game player. I don't know how the fuck he gets us to the 16 games, though. I'm not sure this is the dude who helps us through the first 82. And I assume that he's going to be a year older because that's how this shit tends to work. And so I like the idea of adding Al Horford, but in this vacuum while watching everything else happen, if this is the only thing that we add, I'm not super excited, man. We're going to need some other fucking moves here.
Unequivocally for me, I'm stoked because you may remember my first job in middle school. I waited tables at an old folks home, and listen, man, I am primed to do that again. Joe Lacob, hit me up. I will serve prune juice to Al Horford and anybody else on the Retirement Warriors. No problem. You let me know. I'm the number one candidate for this job.
I forgot to praise his gentle eyes. I don't think I've ever I've had multiple games where I really wanted to hate Al Horford. I mean, I can't stand fucking Boston, yeah. And I hated Atlanta when they were hella good. And it was like he and Paul Millsap. There's been all these times where I've had real reason to dislike Al Horford. And then the camera will focus in on him. And I'm just like, man, those are some fucking gentle ass eyes, dude. He's such a likable face. So, hey, let's add that to the stats we are incorporating. So it's not just 9 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, and 27.6 minutes. It is also two very gentle eyes. So include that on the roster as well.
And I mean, it sounds like the gentle eye thing actually, yeah, I mean, to stretch this a little bit further, as annoyed as we all were, the discourse coming out of Boston potentially getting a title with Al Horford on it, was like, everybody's like, oh, I'm just so excited for Al. What a great guy, and when there's enough people around the league saying that, and it's surfacing into national discourse to the point that two podcasters in Golden State are talking about it, that he's a very valuable presence in the locker room. So, do I want him to be our starting center as we march our way towards a 16-game type of performance from him? No, but if he's going to play backup minutes, this is somebody that I think can maybe replace some of the genuineness of the Kevon Looney loss.
Is there anything more Steve Curry than if they re-sign JK and then continue to not play him because Kerr prefers Horford? And it's like Horford's rebounding really well and setting all these great screens, and we just can't take him off the floor. It is what it is. He helps us win. I can already feel the growing frustration that could come out of this. Let me give you a little grass is greener. All right. So it's a recurring theme. They can't do shit till they understand what's going on with JK. I get it. I accept it. That's fine. But there's been some other moves. So I've pulled out 3 moves that have been made in the last few days. They aren't necessarily the best players, but they are players who probably could have fit within that Loon salary spot. Loon went for about $8 million. These guys are all around the $8 to $10 million flat. I'm going to give you the name and the contract. You tell me if you wish Golden State had done it. I'm going to work my way up to the person I would have been most excited by. All right. So here's our first. Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez signs a 2-year deal to the Los Angeles Clippers at $18 million. So about $9 million per. Maxime, thumbs up or thumbs down? Would you have said yes to this if we had the opportunity?
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're suggesting that this would be like a sign and trade thing?
They just signed. Yes. They were straight free agents.
Okay. So this doesn't have anything to do with Looney. This is just like, okay, Looney went out the door.
Right. The Looney goes out the door, freeing up about $8 million for us.
You.
We can't spend that now because we got to know where the hell it's going with JK. But they could have, if they wanted, they could have thrown it towards these guys. So would you have wanted to throw it towards Brook Lopez?
No. The short answer is no. We don't need to belabor the point. The thing that I think is going to be thematic through all of this is there are things that we are potentially waiting on. There are potentially larger fish. I think in general, we should all remind ourselves that Jimmy Butler's acquisition kind of was the beginning of our free agency period, right? And so there's a lot that we need to figure out because obviously he's tying up a ton of our money. Now there's rumors that LeBron maybe doesn't want to finish his career in Los Angeles. We saw how that went in the Olympics. So right, maybe we need to wait around for larger moves. And I just don't think that Brook Lopez is the type of player that we signed for 2 years, $18 million, and then can be part of a trade package that's enticing to anybody to get the kind of return that we need. So I don't think it fills space. I think he's too old. And I think he's past the point at which he's going to be valuable. Was he like averaging 5 points and a couple rebounds a game at this point? I don't think that he's moving the needle for us.
You've given us a good structure. Conceptual versus actual. Conceptual, adding him, sure. 7-footer, can shoot, low rim protection from the area. Played at Stanford. I like it. $9 million isn't terrible. Actual. So one, that we're not getting into the CBA logistics. One, because I don't fucking understand them. But 2, because they are mind-numbingly boring. But what my very loose understanding is that there are both soft and hard caps. When the cap is soft, that means you can go above it, but you incur some penalty. When it becomes hard, that means you very literally cannot spend more money than what the cap is. And my understanding is that if the Warriors make a move now, they go from the soft to the hard cap, and they literally stop themselves from being able to make further moves down the line. That's why they got to figure out this JK thing. So, idea-wise, do I look Brook Lopez? Sure. Actually, would I go into the hard cap for Brook Lopez? No, fuck no. And I think they made the right move not going down that. Similar type of player. Jonas Valanciunas just got traded to Denver. And all they gave up was former Warrior Dario Saric. So really, Sacramento just wanted this dude off their books. Jonas is scheduled to make about $10 million per season. So 2 years, 20 over the next 2. So same kind of deal. Same kind of analysis, like idea, toughness, big dude. Do we need him? Sure. But would I really stop our options now by signing him, and hard cap us going into the future? No, I would not. I'm assuming you are the same. So I'm just going to push us to the biggest name. All right. DeAndre Ayton. So DeAndre, much like Damian Lillard, became a surprise free agent. Portland bought his ass out. They're going to pay him to not play there. And so there was 48-hour period where his services were just out there, open and available, but no longer. He just signed with the Lakers, and he got about $8.4 million, right about what Loon signed for. So Maxime, what do you think, man? Would you have wanted to give DeAndre Ayton an $8 million contract and welcome him into Golden State?
Yeah. He's really lost a lot. There's a lot of hit pieces coming out about how he's like late to plane rides and not showing up to practices. And we all remember the story of him not making it to a game because he was snowed in. It's like, what the hell is going on after the Suns pick him number 1 overall. And then now he's crashing out this early in his career where he's not like done. He's still playing quote unquote productive minutes in the NBA, but can't seem to actually be of value near. It's a very strange first round pick. You either see sort of the like Darkos of the world, which like they're gone, or you see or you see like the LeBrons of the world. And so in this case, or maybe Darko is the wrong example because he was number 2, right? But regardless, the point is, at $8 million, we have seen, for example, Andrew Wiggins come from a situation where people were like, hey, there's a number 1 overall pick that, isn't quite as living up to his expectations. And then he basically wins us a title in 2022. Could that happen again here? Yes. Does he fill a position of need? Sure does, right? Is he the fast rim running type of big that would theoretically fit into the Steve Kerr style more than the like bruiser under, slow things down? Yeah, I think he would be actually a perfect fit in Golden State. It's really disappointing that they didn't get him. And the only silver lining I have with all of that is, okay, maybe that means that there's something bigger coming that they didn't want to cap themselves for, like you said. But I think that's the type of move that I would be willing to cap myself and say, okay, that's the end of our free agency for.
Would have done this in a heartbeat. And that's not because I think that DeAndre Ayton is speeding back towards being a number 1 pick. I don't think he is justified of the contract that they were buying him out from. I get it. I've read all those fucking stories. I understand. Right. I'll give it a different approach. So there was a period of time when the Warriors got the people they wanted because they wanted them. You want to add DeMarcus Cousins for no fucking reason? No problem. He wants to be here. You want to add Kevin Durant to a 73-win team? No problem. He wants to be here. They could pick a player. That player was just excited to be associated with Golden State. Here they would come. Yeah. That's not true anymore. That's not what's up. We are not at the top of the heap. We are now in a place where if we're getting a player or going after a player, they're available for a reason. And though the for a reason, there's always going to be a hedge. DeAndre Ayton is the perfect example. I get that he had effort problems. I get that his teammates seemingly didn't like him, that he's not always showing up. That's why he's available. That's why the Warriors can necessarily add him. Have we seen Golden State turn somebody like that around? You've already mentioned him. Andrew Wiggins, yes. So would it have been guaranteed? Does he definitely help us? I don't know. Could he have been a problem here? Sure. Yes, he could have. But would I have been willing to spend $8 million and take that chance? Yes. I would, because that's what we need to do. We got to take some chances because there's nobody is going to just join us for less money anymore. That's not who we are. They have to have a reason to come here too. And that reason is going to be lack of interest in other places. They will have had to have burned some bridges. And so, perfect example. This guy's burned a few bridges.
Yeah. The flip side to that argument, I think, is still Wiggins. We've now know Jimmy Butler actually had a lot of respect for Andrew Wiggins in Minnesota. It was more Karl Anthony Towns' behavior that caused him to take his C squad and try to smoke the starters. Wiggins is the type of person that seemed primed for a reclamation effort. If you just put him on a team that had their shit together, like Golden State, he would be able to thrive with the right role, with the right culture around him. Ayton, by all accounts, right, is like maybe actually more the source of the problem, more the cat end of the spectrum, to go back to that Jimmy Butler example. And Golden State is a smart organization that knows how much culture matters in that locker room. And so it's very possible they move past it because they're like, you know what, like it's actually not worth it because it's not just about on-court stuff.
I anticipated this. I'm going to give you 2 words. Ready? Ooh. Wasted minutes. You know what that description is? You know what that nickname's from? Flip Saunders. Late Flip Saunders. That's how he referred to Andrew Wiggins. After Andrew Wiggins went number 1, after he played multiple seasons in Minnesota, when they asked Flip Saunders, well, what do you think, dude? This guy wants a fucking max. Like, what would you do? His description of him was wasted minutes. That he'd be out there for 30 minutes a game and you couldn't fucking tell. You had no idea. There's no rebounds. The stats didn't show it. That guy then became the second best player in a finals. I think he outplayed Tatum, and that was infrastructure. And that was, credit to Wiggins. He turned shit around, but there were some pretty nasty stories about Wiggins too, and it doesn't matter. Ayton's not coming, and so now I hope it snows in fucking Los Angeles and he doesn't come to the game. I hope all of that shit's true, but was I willing to fucking risk it? Sure. Absolutely. Let's see where it goes.
I am now very much hoping that all of these rumors are actually just the tip of the iceberg and that he really tanked that whole franchise because fuck LA.
Like the first story is like DeAndre, some story about Ayton going up to Luka Doncic and be like, "Oh, let's just start eating burgers every day." It's like fucking.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
why. Like I have no idea why they give you shit about your being in shape, dude. Like come kick it with me. Like you're doing great. Like don't you worry about that. I hope it's a bunch of shit like that. It'd be fucking fantastic.
Just Trojan horse Luca's whole summer and now he's just fat again 3 months in. Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Just footage of like him showing up with like cheesesteak at his house every day. Like, oh here, like let's fucking party. It's a little 6-pack. Let's see where it goes. To our last segment, and probably the one I've been looking forward to the most. All right, so it's Judgment Theater. And let me set it up this way. Malik Beasley, he who had one hell of a season, was in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year, beat the shit out of us a couple of times. In fact, I think he hit a game winner a couple of years ago before Detroit made their big renaissance, and then was a big part of why Detroit had such a huge year this last year. So much so, Maxime, he was getting ready to sign a $40 million contract, and then the Fed stepped in. No actual accusations as of yet, but the FBI is investigating Malik Beasley for possibly gambling on games that he was involved in. So, you know, there's a bunch of sites out there now that let you essentially make prop bets. You can bet on specific players' stats. So, for example, if I wanted to bet on whether or not Malik Beasley would have more or less than 6.5 rebounds way back in January of 2024, I could have made that bet. And it turns out that there was a huge amount of money that was bet on that specifically, a surprising amount, so much so that they're looking into whether or not Malik Beasley may have bet on himself. To be fair to this, by the way, in fact, I'll just let Milwaukee Journal Sentinel describe it for us. This is from their story on this investigation. Quote, "The scope of Beasley's gambling isn't yet clear. ESPN reported of one instance of unusually high volume betting during a January 31st, 2024 game against Portland. The odds of Beasley grabbing fewer than 2.5 rebounds shortened dramatically because of a surge of action. He finished with 6 rebounds, meaning the unusual volume of bets were losing bets." So just to point out, what it sounds like they're saying is they think that Beasley bet on himself to have less rebounds, less than 2.5 rebounds. And then he went out and he fucking lost the bet. He somehow grabbed more rebounds than he was gambling on, which is wild and a story of and of itself. But so he is being investigated for insider knowledge, you know, that he may or may not have bet on himself. My Judgment Theater to you, have you ever benefited from insider knowledge, Maxime? Not, you know, stock shit, not that you had some information that you used to bet, although that would count. Have you ever had access to info that other people didn't, that you took advantage of in some way? I will go first. You can guess. What do you think, man? Have I ever benefited from an insider knowledge situation?
We need the stakes to matter here, right? Because I feel like it's possible, you know, in middle school, you found out that actually like one line had pizza and the other one didn't. And you went to that line first. Like, yeah, okay, you got pizza and a lot of people didn't because they went to the wrong line. But like, those aren't the type of stakes that we're talking about here, right? Because I think everybody has had some opportunity to take advantage of information. That's just a human condition.
You had to do it publicly. It had to have impacted other people in some way. So like if I saw that, you know, I told everybody, oh, go wait in that other line. I heard that one's going kind of fast, you know, like some bullshit, knowing secretly that it would be the second line that would get me the pizza.
Okay. I would guess, so for your job, first of all, no, right? Because I think you are highly ethical. And I mean, come on, you're a lawyer, right? Like lawyers are basically like beaten into believing in the value of the law above all else. Sure. So, right, comparing Malik Beasley doing this for his job, right? Like, no, you've not done that.
Appreciate
in your
that.
personal life. Right. Yeah. I mean, come on, that's obvious. And also just like every lawyer I know is like, no, the law, man, the fuck, you're right. Go watch, what's the Breaking Bad precursor, Better Call Saul, right? And it's just like his brother incarnate. So yeah, no worries there. But I do think like something around like maybe your personal life or family that benefited not just you, but your family overall, and sort of, you know, you had to step on some people to get there. I think that's a possibility.
Have I ever done that? Fuck yes, I have. Of course I have, dude. So let's see. Most recent example. This is during last season. I'm going to keep the person's name out, but I was at a friend's house. We were watching a Warriors game late. We had it taped, and someone texted me who was from the future because they had watched the game, and they let me know the Warriors were going to lose. And at that time, in my where we were in that game, Warriors were up pretty big, and so I looked at it and played it. Now I look back on this now, I'm a little embarrassed about it. Played it to my advantage. Like I didn't say anything immediately, but the Warriors had some turnover. I think we were up like, I don't know, 15, 16. And I was like, ooh, I think we might lose this game. And I continued to press that, continue to press it. And then by the end, when they lost and everyone was like, oh my God, dude, you know this team so well. I definitely didn't talk them out of that. I just did a bunch of like knowing nods. Like I was kind of disappointed that it happened, but I saw it coming. It is what it is. So like, have I taken some insider knowledge and benefited? Fuck yes, I have, Maxime. Absolutely. To you, I'm like 0 for 19 the last time's guessing with you. And it's always like I'm close, and then there's some caveat that means I'm wrong. My guess here, I'm going to say yes, but I think I'm just projecting. I'm saying yes because I think anybody would, and I think I'm thinking that to make myself feel better. Having apparently lied to my friends to make it seem like I really knew the Golden State Warriors. So I'm hoping the answer for you is yes. So my guess is yes. What's the truth?
My guess is yes too. I was hoping by this point I would come up with something concrete, but hearing your story that just resonated so deeply that if I was given the opportunity, I definitely would have. And I think the fact that I can't come up with anything particular is almost more of an indication that in fact I have done that, because I'm like, well, yeah, of course I would do that.
But you kids, so nothing comes to mind though. There's no like guilt inducing story. There's no time you fucked over somebody that, fucked over might be a little strong. So that you took advantage of some information that other people didn't have.
Man, see, this is, I think now the benefit of Judgment Theaters is that you get a peek into somebody's psyche. And I think I'm just like so clearly content with myself that I'm able to just move past the guilt around that, which is it's a personality flaw, Bram. I'm being real honest with you right here. I mean, it's an overinflated sense of self.
As you're saying that, I've come up with like 7 other examples where I've done this. So I
just have a bad memory. I think that's really the problem here.
I will not share any of these other fucking 7. You can fuck yourself until you have shared something with me. We'll see where it goes. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see where this thing plays out, man. I am hopeful that the next time we record, we'll at least have some sense of where the JK thing goes. I mean, it just feels so open-ended. Here, leave us with this. Over under 30 million. Where do you think his contract lands?
Poof. I think under. I think the second apron situation has cooled the market off pretty dramatically, and I feel like I can't think of them off the top of my head. But there are players that I think are slightly more meriting of that number that didn't quite get there. And there's also, shout out to Ben T in the comments asking about the rumors for Kuminga to Sacramento and what we would want to get in return, which first of all is just hilarious because it's like, come on, Sacramento, like you'll just take anything that came from Golden State because you think it's touched with gold. And as far as you're concerned, it is, because what a sorry fucking franchise up there in Sacramento. But like, would I want anything in return from them? No, not really. I don't think that there's anything enticing enough that would be an equivalent return. But it seems at this point, obviously we tendered Kuminga the qualifying offer, which is just how free agency starts. And it does seem as though he's not getting much in the open market by way of, a larger number than that. So that's an indication that Golden State won't need to spend that either. And I think we're locking him up for somewhere closer to 20.
Yeah, I mean, let's use Ben T's suggestion and Sacramento as kind of a barometer. Yeah, when the offseason first started, there were suggestions, light rumors, maybe Sabonis would be available, and maybe JK could be the centerpiece of something like that. Now, when you look, it's not Sabonis we're talking about; it's Malik Monk, right? And his $18 million. And I think that kind of shows where JK's value has slid to now that we're seeing all the other contracts that are being handed out. So under 30 million, I take the under. I think he's looking 24, 25. And then would I trade JK right now for Malik Monk? No. I have Malik Monk is a scorer and a guy who has had big buckets against us in big scenarios. I've come to hate his very smug face, but I'm still holding out on JK's like all-star pedigree. That might be ludicrous. I might be the last person who thinks he actually has it, but am I willing to give up on that now, like this early from Malik Monk? No, let's see. Let's let this play out a little bit further before we are, I don't know, bargain basement dealing him on the outside. All right. Well, let's see where this goes. You know where to reach us. If you want to get us a question or let us know we did a good job, bad job, any job, you can shoot an email to
Huddle@warriorshuddle.com.
boom. We're on social media. We're also on Patreon, where we love your support. We are on YouTube. Get out there, subscribe. And with that in mind, go Warriors. And hopefully we'll see you real soon.